Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on July 14th, 2023 at approximately 4:32 p.m. PST. Now, I returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the ones that I personally put into practice in my everyday life. These are tools that have been shared with literally thousands of people. Okay, so we know for an absolute certainty they work if you put the tools together. Now, before I go any further, we're going to do things a little different today because, well, we had a scramble job. And right through the door with the gold is Adam Lakados. How you doing, Adam? Glad you can make it. Now, I'm going to try and get things organized here. Yeah, that's it. Pour pop in the middle of my computer. That'll help. Well, can't hurt. I just installed the program yesterday, was trying it out today, and had to uninstall it again because of the simple fact that it seized the whole system. As a matter of fact, I rebooted it and it still wouldn't let go of the system. So I don't know what's going on. We'll have to try and figure that out later. Let us see here. Oh, need to take that over there to get the other screen up. So, do I know what's going on? Absolutely not. Let's call this one up so I can actually read. Tell you, when like I told my computer tech, when I said my system runs a little screwy, I wasn't. Can't see that. Okay, there we go. Now I don't have the feedback. And football is in with the silver. How you doing, football? The reality of it from my standpoint is simple. I've got a computer that the second I install anything new on it, it jams the whole system. And I know that's an abnormality. I know virtually everybody else I ever talk to says it doesn't make sense. Even my computer tech was taking a look at it, and he goes into the back of the system, which I don't understand, and turns around and says, he goes, it says the system is occupied, but none of the systems are registering occupied. Christine, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Oh, sure, you're going to eat dinner and make us hungry because we know you're eating. Staying cool, not an option here. Let's see, we are sitting right now at 32, which is just barely, which is right around the 100 degrees. Yeah, so we're sitting about the same temperature. But yeah, overall, like I said, we installed the program, got great feedback. It feeds off, or it produces a good upload, good clear upload. So we're going to try and install it afterwards. At least I think that's the way we're going to do this. Oh, Christine goes, we don't cool down until later in November. Yeah, we usually start cooling down closer to September. But, ultimately we have an annoyance here. The computer itself, I don't know what I'm going to do with the program. Doing the uploads is going to be a bit of a problem if I can't get a program working. Especially if I have to turn around and uninstall it every time in order to run live. So we have football in with the silver. Then we go down here. Christine, Yeah. Christine is in with the bronze. And then we slip down here and we have Shadow in with honorable mention. How you doing, Shadow? So let us pull up the other program because I had to reboot the whole system, which is why it was a little late coming in. Drag that over to the third screen. And Shadow, where are you? No, that's quantum. There we go. And we go, this is the link to Shadow's and to Shadow Stream. So absolutely drop by, give him a listen. If you like what he has to say, absolutely give him a thumbs up. And subscribe to his channel and then share the daylights out of it if you'd be so kind. Raven, how you doing? Glad you could join us. You know, all in all, like I've told people, computers and I are, well, I almost think we're adversaries, but not entirely certain. And so we'll have to figure out how that goes. So wish me luck with trying to get that all sorted around. Not in the slightest, football. If you initiate a conversation with a cryptid or a shapeshifter, all you're doing is initiating a conversation. It's just like initiating a conversation with another person. Okay, that's all it is. And I apparently missed some people, did I? Not that I can find. That's all live. And we go to live there. But no, simply initiating conversation does not give anybody the right to stalk. It's kind of like on Earth. If you wave at somebody, you're not telling them they're allowed to come over and take your stuff. It's just not the way it works. Angels in Life, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And this is the link to Angels. Let's see, we go copy there, bring it down here. And we paste it there. And again, drop in, give her a listen. If you like what she has to say, give her a thumbs up and then subscribe to the channel. That would be really appreciated. We're going to try and get things organized, but of course, as with computers, I'm always going to run into that problem, it would seem. No, football, I didn't get to any of that. In all fairness, I seldom go looking for anything. This is actually footballs and just asking. Did you see the video of the woman on the plane who claimed she sat next to a shapeshifter? Chad, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And there's Philip coming in. Where are we here? Philip goes, I have a question for you, if it's okay to ask. Now, the good news there is even if we're not talking about that topic, absolutely it's okay to ask. That's the whole kicker to it. And the fact you put it all in caps just means I can find it. Okay. In all fairness, the only thing I know of that my brother ever wrote was computer programming. Okay, I know my brother, and of course, he's obviously never going to write anything now. He died just over a year ago. But no, the only thing he wrote was back in the 70s. Like, he wrote a lot of computer programs. Well, I did get the new upload program there, Chad, but unfortunately it seized the entire system, so I had to reinstall it. I had to uninstall it in order to go live tonight. which is why I was a couple of minutes late. So we're going to have to take a look at that afterwards. That said, regarding what my brother was doing, the program that they are using, as far as I understand, back in the 70s, he wrote a program to handle the BC ferries between Vancouver and Vancouver Island. To the best of my knowledge, it is still what they're using today. Okay, which might give you an idea of how far ahead of the game he was. But no, he did not write anything. That said, I'm going to do something I probably shouldn't. I don't know if I should or not, but I've shown you a number of books I wrote. This one is one my little brother wrote. Yes, it's in print. I don't even know how to get a hold of it. Or even if you can, for that matter. But yeah, my little brother decided he was going to write one as well. Let's get that back out of the way. But no, my eldest brother was a computer programmer. That was all there was. I honestly don't know, in all fairness, Philip. Philip's just asking, do you ever program a story link like for a computer game or software? I don't have a clue. This one, like I said, I don't even know if it's available. But this one that little brother wrote is called Book One of the Demon's Web. Now, how far he went with it, I don't know. Needless to say, Book One pretty much says that was the first book. I have no idea how many he was looking at. I have no idea. So if you're going to ask me where to get it, I have no idea. I can certainly contact my brother and see if he's got any left or what the story was. But this is one of those funny things with actually going to build an actual publishing company. It's that sort of thing I'm going to be dealing with anyway. But hopefully that makes sense. By the way, that said, I have started working on I've started working, as per somebody's suggestion, on a short story that is run with dice. Okay, to give different choices and what have you on how to get through the puzzle. Don't know exactly how it's all going to pan out, but we'll take a look at it. Okay, that being said, the newsletter that I did just open up it's already growing. Okay, it was the first one coming out was 6 pages. The next one is going to be somewhere between 8 and 10. I've just got a little more work to do on it tonight. But where we are, so much for English. Let me see if I can give you something there. Come here. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out how bad. I wasn't actually planning on doing that. It just kind of worked out that way. But this is science fantasy. Okay, and my brother's got a very different way of writing from what I do. So I haven't read all of it yet, but I've read a chunk of it. As I said, I'm not good at reading. But it is a science fantasy book. The best I can tell you from my recollection is it's a tale told from the standpoint of a bard. Okay, of a D&D bard. But exactly what it's about, I just cannot give you any functional information. I can certainly look into finding out from my little brother. That'd be the one. You have found exactly which one it was. That was Bardoodle. I don't believe it. I hope that's a typo on your part. Because the reason I say that is because what you typed in is missing a D. So I'm hoping that's just a typo and not what it said on the thingammy. No, my little brother doesn't even have a stable He doesn't even have a stable home. He travels all over the country, depending on what manufacturing plant he's installing. I won't even see him again until November, but I can talk to him before that. What prompted him to write, I have no idea. Oh, I'm glad to hear that, Chad. I mean, I'm not glad you misspelled it, but I'm glad it was misspelled on their end. No, it's science fantasy. Or just straight fantasy, I'm not sure which. Yeah, that'd be about right. I know he's still working on it, but the man works 100 hours a week when he's installing the plant. So there is no time for him to sit and chill. So I'm just looking at getting things moving at this point. Him I can find out a little bit about. I don't know what he's got going on with it. Yeah, it's weird. We got into writing. My eldest brother got into computer programming, right? And then I've got one in the medical. Well, it used to be I had two in the medical facility, in the medical industry. One of them quit working when he died. The other one just retired last year, I think. Might have been retired the year before. But he took early retirement. So yeah, we're all pretty on the active side. Except for those of us that are dead, and they're probably more active than the rest of us. But, am I looking to expand my repertoire? Absolutely. Okay, this is why I've started doing my best to upgrade to upload things and get the different aspects running. How I'm going to pull it off, I don't know yet. Okay, the unfortunate part is even with my computer the computer tech that I've got, we ran into a problem. I went, no, we're going to have to reboot and probably uninstall the program. I don't know tech. I know instinct. Yeah, what it is, Philip, my little brother, what he does, he goes around, he is the safety coordinator or safety officer for installing or reinstalling or upgrading industrial plants. Now, exactly what he does, I don't know. I haven't sat down and talked to him a whole lot. I just know right now he's up in the far north, and after that's done, somewhere in November, I think, he's apparently heading east with a little bit of luck. But I don't even know if he's got a stable place to live right now. It's my little brother is the kind of guy that we really need around to bring manufacturing back to Canada and put people back on track. Whether or not the government ever does this is anybody's guess. Now, talk about going sideways right off the hop. Okay, but I did, like I mentioned in the quick little upload I do now have an entire schedule already set up on my hard copy to cover to the end of the month. Now, I've only given it out, I listed it today for the week. Okay. That said, I've got next week already booked, but I can modify next week as I go along. If you guys come up with a topic or something comes up that catches my attention, I can still change next week. Technically, I could change this week. It just doesn't make sense to try and really scramble myself. But I am very happy you guys came and have chosen to share your time with me. We are sitting. What am I looking at? I'm curious here because it was neat. I put the short up. I'll tell you, trying to do a 1 minute short is going to be a problem. I don't know how well that's going to work, but we'll see what I can do. Getting the shorter ones, once I get the program transferred over properly, then we'll be fine. Where are we? Oh, already answered that. Henry, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Let us hit refresh and see what that does to numbers. Absolutely nothing. But no, when I laid it out, like we said a little while ago, let's see, the 14th, I've got it listed here. Okay. Again, guys, if you've got a question, even if it's not in the same stream we're in right now, in the same topic we're talking about at the moment, put your questions in at least partially all caps. Yeah, it's not, in all fairness, Chad, much as I appreciate that, the problem isn't the memory. The problem is whatever computer gets put onto my system will scramble other parts of it. Just that's the way it is. It doesn't make sense, but it does work that way. Okay, so we are looking at that. But what I do need to figure out is how to get how to turn around and monetize things. Apparently, well, I've now got 3 live streams or 3 uploads this month. Never mind the last 90 days. Okay, and I know I've already got the viewing hours. Yeah, Henry goes, I was skateboarding past a cawing crow and I made a little caw and immediately heard a little voice in my head say, shut up, I think shut up, I think it was the crow. That can cause a problem trying to laugh while you're trying to skateboard. This is going to cause a problem. I remember when I taught myself to skateboard at 50. Bad leg in teaching myself to skateboard. This is not bright. But I put my keys on my back hip and had one of those punch a hole in my hip because I ended up landing on the thing. Tell you, skateboarding with a bad knee is not a good idea, especially when you don't have balance to start with. But it does prove that you can do anything you put your mind to. Now, for those of you that already already received the first edition of the newsletter, the second edition, I've already added a search and find to it. Okay, I've already started working on the next 6 months of them to get everything moving in the same way. Oh, it's funny. His boss quite literally has told him, you solve problems before I even know that I have them. And this is just something that's running in our family. My dad spotted problems. My dad was search and rescue for years. He spent 13 years search and rescue. Yeah, Joe goes, the other day I was in Starbucks drive-thru with my mom. Coffee. The day started off upside down. Blonde sitting with her 7-year-old son had a look on her of just, thumbs down. And I knew. And, the funny thing is, we're all born gifted. And this is why, when we were talking about this last week, I said, look, we're going to look at how you can figure out if you're dealing with a psychic that's above board. Now, not every psychic is as strong as the next. Okay, let's face it. There are strong ones, there are weaker ones. But there are a couple of dead giveaways to watch for. If you're talking to a new psychic that you've never talked to before, okay, I will tell you they do require a little information. They've got to have your actual first name to tap in, or your actual name that you go by to tap into. They do, and most of them require a birthday, but there's two reasons for the birthday. One, it helps them tap into exactly who you are and how your life is. If they are numerologist or an astrologer, that birthday becomes critical in their assessment. Okay. And telling them what city or town you're calling from, okay, or that you're visiting them from, is kind of important, because I will tell you this. People in small towns think and respond differently to people in big cities. Okay. So I mean, when you're talking to them, give them that information right off the bat. Okay. Or be prepared to when they ask. Let's put it that way. Okay, because I will tell you, if you say, I'm not telling you anything, well, frankly, you're making it really difficult. Not only are you making it difficult for the reader, but you're also making it difficult for yourself. Okay, I've had people do that to me. Okay, and I got to a point where it's like, you don't want to talk, I don't want to read. I'm that easy at it at this point. The funny thing is, Henry, whether you're living in a big city or a small town, doesn't matter. Most people live inside a 9-block square area. That's all they live in. Okay, doesn't matter the size. But you are right. People are taught in cities to be a lot more disconnected, which, by the way, is why you have many cities that feel very cold and uninviting, and small towns that'll either lock you out right off the bat, and then you're pretty much hooped, or they'll take you in, one and all. That's the reality behind it. But when you're when you first start talking to somebody that is calling himself a psychic, a consultant, a counselor, whatever, if they're talking about being intuitive, okay, they are going to require your birthday, your actual birthday, okay, and that doesn't necessarily mean time, but day, month, year would be really handy if you've got it. Okay, it can be done without it, but if you've got it, be honest. Remember that thing about karmic law, energy out, energy in? Well, if you're aiming, the reality is, if you're aiming to prove that psychics are wrong, or you're aiming to prove they're right, either way, you're going to be successful in all likelihood. Okay, so what you look at is this. Where are we here? Angels of Life goes, I've had that happen, they state. But you're a psychic, you should know. I get a kick out of it, because here's the thing. I get the same thing dealing with relationships. Well, no, I didn't tell my girlfriend. She's a woman. She should know. I'm like, she's a woman. She's not God. Okay. And men and women have the same capacity. It's just that women are taught it's okay to run on instinct. Men are taught you got to logic your way through it. I'll tell you, it's an issue of a balance point between the two. Film goes, one of my great-great-grandfathers may have been like your family. Dodge was impressed with his talent as a railroad mechanic. Offered him a job, he declined, came out west instead. Yeah, I can understand that. The problem with it, yeah, Joe goes, yeah, Joe goes, which wouldn't have happened anyway if I told her what I was thinking at that moment. Both of us would have gotten very emotional. I was married, and my wife used to ask me, she literally asked me one day, can't you ever shut that off? I'm like, no. And I will tell you, and this may offend some of you, and that's fine. I got used to offending people. It's not a question of, am I going to? It's a question of how. All I can do is be honest. Oh, Philip, referring to my higher senses. I'm a full-blown empath. I'm an uncontrolled telepath, meaning I physically pick up what people are thinking, what people are feeling. What I don't do is I don't necessarily pick up all the words. Prime example, I was with a girlfriend at one point. We were walking into the grocery store, and on the way out, I looked at her and I says, "Did you grab the pizza that you wanted, that you had said you wanted?" And she looked at me, she stops cold, and she goes, Keith, I didn't actually say anything about the pizza. I thought about wanting pizza. I said, okay, so did you grab it? Right. Now, the reality of that is that can be very disconcerting for people. But the moment somebody tells me I just shut my senses down, I look at them and go, well, let's see. That's akin to just deciding you're not going to see anything with your eyes without closing your lids. Okay, you just go, I'm not taking in any information with my eyes, or I'm no longer picking up noise. It's just, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to shut it down. Okay, it doesn't shut off in my experience. Now, if you know how to do that, that's great. I wish all the best with it. I've never met a functional psychic that could actually shut it down. I know a lot of them that can focus past it and only say what they're dealing with that the mundane people know. You know, that the mundane people can understand. My case, no, I learned how to put my foot in my mouth and then tried to figure out how to put the other one in beside it. Many times I was successful. But when you first meet, if you're going to get a reading with somebody, sidetrack. I sent off a bunch of reconnection letters to people that I did have addresses to, that I used to do consulting with. And I'm just curious at this point on whether or not I've managed to get any sort of response on that. Where are we? Nope. There we go. Nothing poking up there, so we go to LinkedIn and see if that pulls up anything. Back to home and see what we got for messages. Nothing. Okay. So, in any event, I have already had a couple of responses regarding the letters I sent out. Okay, in a nutshell, football, have I predicted specifically that I could? And now, do understand, in no case am I going to go and give anybody statistics on this. Okay, but have I predicted someone would commit a murder? No, but I did pin down the fact, and I had this one corroborated by the police. Okay, I did pin down the fact that a gentleman they had in custody was not the guy that was guilty of the murder that they were looking into. It was a cold case file. Okay. And did I get corroboration from the police and from everything going on around it? The answer is yes. Did I pin down someone? Did I find? And unfortunately, I was shut down. You know, I did find, I was shut down by a certain agency where we did find a missing person, but because of the fact that I was not using their system, they shut us down. And the long and the short of it was, politely put, the child died. Yeah, after Angels goes, I can shut some of it down, but it only happens if I throw a gigantic eternal inside my brain type of fit in order to decrease some of it. But the entire thing never shuts off. Never. Yeah, this is what I mean by some people can focus past it. I've learned to ignore a lot of it. I've also found myself, by pulling away from people, by literally stepping back and not going out in public much, it dampens the amount that I pick up. Of course, as you may well know, if you're an active psychic, and I'm sure you're aware of this as well, Joe, if you're an active psychic, if you're close to somebody, as in physically in proximity. Worse, if you make physical contact, you're going to pull the whole information right off the bat. Okay. I have done though. Oh yeah. In my last job there, football, I actually was tested by an active psychic working there before I even got the job. And I ended up, 23 years, there's a lot of things I covered. One of the worst ones that I ran into was a girl had been raped. After she went to the doctor, got the rape test done and everything else, and then phoned me, of all people. Okay, she phoned me and wanted to talk about what to do about it. Because she didn't know how to cope. The thing I said, of all people, is because in case you hadn't noticed, I'm male. Okay, and that's what had assaulted her. Where are we here? Philip goes, you're partly describing the autism spectrum, Vulcan and or Asperger's autism. Well, that's just it. I've always held that autistic people simply process differently. Now, I have been diagnosed. Okay, I have been tested for all of it. And I've been tested by 3 different people. 3 different professional licensed psychiatrists. Number 1, I don't have any of the above, as in autism, Asperger's, none of it. Okay, the only thing they could all agree on was I have an absolute low tolerance for stupidity. Okay, and unfortunately, that doesn't differentiate between anybody's age, sexual orientation, what they relate to, how much money they've got. None of it. It doesn't even differentiate between species. Angels in Life goes, I told myself and others to never do that to oneself. For me, it caused a gigantic amount of life issues because I wasn't being true to myself. It became a danger, Will Robinson, danger situation. Absolutely. Yeah. Christine goes, I have low tolerance for stupidity, but I'm patient. So I guess I put up with it at times. I cannot tell you about their qualifications. I do know that every doctor I've ever spoken to, the first one I went to, when you think about it, the first one I spent 20 years with was the one that actually diagnosed me with temporal dissociative disorder, meaning I can't track time. Okay, but I was to that one that I spent 20 years with. I went to one locally here. He was local, right? And I spent, like I said, 20 years with him. I was actually in a phone consultation with a chap down in the States. Okay. And I went to a meeting, to an analysis with a chap up here that actually runs a trial clinic, meaning he's got access apparently to all the newest stuff. And rest assured, where you're saying there, Philip, they may not be aware. They may not. I'm just not going back to do any more guinea pigs testing. The way I figure it, I spent age 1.5 to age 5. I spent in the my labs. I'm not interested in playing the guinea pig anymore. A trial clinic boils down to this. They've got all the newest medications, all the newest techniques, all the newest research from around the world. At least this was his claim. Okay, we got off to a great start, and then he made the mistake of asking me the wrong question. Remember that thing about stupidity? It didn't go over well. But I was told by my original psychiatrist not to go back and talk to another one because they just had me drugged out and locked up so fast my head would spin. Thus far, I don't worry about it. At this point, I know what I am. I know who I am. I know who I've been. Angels of Life goes, Keith, do you or have you ever told any medical people, doctors, nurses, etc.? Oh, yeah. I've told a lot of them. Heck, 2013, I had a massive coronary. Okay. Went in, and I didn't mind the doctor's first question. They asked if I knew what was going on. Now, I was a real neat shade of gray. Okay. All over my body. And the doctor looked at me. He goes, do you know what's going on? I says, yeah, I'm in the middle of a massive coronary. Well, 5 hours later, he comes back to me and he goes, he turns around and says, well, we confirmed you had a major coronary. I looked at him and I says, it took you 5 hours to figure that out? I said, I told you that when I got here. Then he made the mistake and told me I couldn't have known. I looked at him and I went, I'm going home. Now, I did actually stay the night, but I think that was because I was exhausted. But I pulled a young gentleman out of a 6-week coma. Okay. When after the doctors had said we're done, he's toast, say your goodbyes. I pulled him out of a 6-week, or more to the point, I guided him out of a 6-week coma. And all the damage that was left was the fact that when we got him upright, he simply didn't know 6 weeks had passed. I also pulled a young lass out of the wheelchair after her being trapped in it for 3.5 years. Okay, these are just things that are normal from my standpoint. Okay, does it ever shut off? No. Okay, it just doesn't. Okay, I was always told that I had a tendency of answering questions before people got around to it. How you doing, dog? Glad you could join us. This is one of the reasons why I didn't do anything with the consulting, with the psychic work for the last 6 months. Is I just went, no, I've been 23 years. I'm just not going there. Yeah, Philip goes, pills usually aren't the best for Asperger's autism. Divergent brain folks like us have to be careful with pills. Proceed with Faustian caution. Well, here's a neat little issue. Okay, first and foremost, pills themselves, your body, now, do not get me wrong. One proviso here. If you happen to be on medication at the guidance of a doctor, I don't care whether you agree with the doctors. If you're already on the medication, stay on the medication. Do what you can to accelerate your own healing. But don't play with the medication. And for pity's sakes, do not use Dr. Google as a way to figure out if you're ill. This is just a suicide run on the whole. Okay, way too many options to screw up your life. But everything your body creates can be corrected. Okay, the reason there are illnesses is they are called a dis-ease. Okay, they call it disease a dis-ease. Something in your body is missing. Okay, and that's the thing that we have to work with. Angels of Life goes, didn't understand, and that is what I was back. Well, that is what I did back then. But I was focused daily energy. Didn't even know it was possible. Well, not a problem there, Angels of Life. The reality of it is that where it comes to working with this, yes, I am in the process of writing. One of the other books I'm working on is living with energy, meaning how do you live with this kind of a mess? Okay, and I do call it a mess. People say, "Oh, it's a gift." Trust me, from the person that's growing up with it, if you've got no support, it's not it's not necessarily going to be seen as a gift. Okay. But if you're going looking for a psychic, yes, I have decided to go back into the consulting side. Just to be blunt about it, I've done it again. I've dropped my prices a little more. And I know, inflation, let's bring the prices up because the cost of living is going up. I'm telling you, that's the problem. Everybody keeps bringing up their prices. I had taken it 2 years ago. I took it from 180 an hour. I shared it to 90 an hour. I've just now reduced it once again to $20 for every 15 minutes. Now, do understand something very important here. I've done readings where I've been paid quite literally in excess of $2,500 an hour. Okay, so $80 for an hour ain't bad. I started professionally reading, as in generating an income, in 1986. So we're looking at 37 years now. Okay, I think that's right. Yes, 37 years now. So, and I've got well over 100,000 clients under my belt. So am I willing to go back into the consulting and take on new clients at this point? The answer is yes. Okay. That said, I work, and as a matter of fact, just to put that in perspective, talk about going sideways on a topic. Welcome to my world. This is the email address that works for both contacting me for any purpose, okay, whether it's consulting or the purchasing of the books, okay, or whether, or getting money to me, and that includes donations or whatever else. Okay, that email address works on PayPal as well. Yeah, see, the best I ever did was about 16. That was after 23 years. Okay. So I mean, from my standpoint, am I willing to go back down that road again? The answer is yes. Okay. To me, it's something, it doesn't go away. And I finally figured out I'm going to have to step out of the shadows and go, look, we can get back on track. Now, that said, if you're looking for an active psychic, okay, or an intuitive counselor, whatever you want to call it, I prefer the term sensitive myself because we literally pick up more, and we're sensitive to way more energies than most people. Okay. Oh, nicely done there, Henry. Okay. Henry is just saying he's been practicing channeling the energy. I can feel it without focusing much anymore. Healed a wound on my hand in just 5 days, when it probably would have taken twice that. And that's the neat part about it, is everything that your body is going through, your body knows what's wrong. So, in simplest terms, when you're reaching out to a new psychic, okay, a new intuitive, okay, and yes, I've dealt with intuitive medicals. In other words, they'll sit there and they'll go, this is what's medically wrong with you, without any formal training. But a couple of questions, and I said this at the earlier point. Couple of questions that are really important. Absolutely give them a name that you're known by. It helps them tap in. Not only that, but it's so much more polite to say, "Hey, Bob, Bob, I see this happening in your life," instead of, "Hey, you, whoever you are, there's a change happening." A name is simply a polite way of giving a label. Okay. 2, they're going to require your actual birth date, not necessarily the birth time. Okay. And in all fairness, the birth location doesn't really matter, and I'll get to that later. Yeah. Todd goes, if I was a pirate, I just found where X marks the spot. By the way, that's also where they do it with a sniper. But that's called crosshairs, I think. But in any event, they do need your birth date. It helps them tap into how you're dealing with things. And of course, if they have, I'm looking okay, I see. Thank you. You know, if they are an astrologer or a numerologist, they're going to need your name and your birthday. Okay, that is the point right there. Okay, now knowing whether it's a city or a town that you're calling from, or you're coming out of the country, out in a rural area, the thinking process is different. You got to remember what psychics do. If we pick up on patterns, we look at, quite frankly, stacking the odds. 80 to 85% of what any psychic does can be rationally explained. But you get to figure this one out. I had a call years ago. A young lass called me out of Vancouver. Okay, Vancouver, BC. She calls me up on the phone. I do not have video on that system. By the way, when I'm doing live readings now, I absolutely prefer video. Either Skype or Messenger is the way I usually work. I'm starting to get a handle on how to handle Zoom calls if somebody else is running the Zoom system. Okay, and of course I do have FaceTime. Am I installing any new programs? Well, I already explained what happened there. Tried installing one today and it just fried the whole system. Just about didn't make it online today. Okay, but one of the key things that you look at is when you're talking to a new reader. Okay, yes, they need those 3 questions. But the moment they turn around and start going, are you married? Do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a boyfriend? How many kids do you have? What color is your hair? This sort of thing. Now, do not look for 100% accurate. I have only met one person that was frighteningly accurate from the standpoint of, I used to work with her, and she wouldn't tell you a gentleman was coming into your life or a woman was coming into your life. She wouldn't say within 2 or 3 months. She'd go on this date, and their birthday is one of these 3. Right. And she very, very seldom missed. Okay. But if they're asking you for details about your life, what do you do for a living? What are you calling about? I mean, what you're calling about makes sense because there are so many possibilities. I've had people call up and go, I'm not telling you anything. And I'm like, okay, well, you're either giving me your name and your birthday or I'm hanging up the phone. Right. Well, I don't want to tell you anything. And I literally have hung up on people that refuse to do that. Because the other thing with a birth date is this. Okay, now I'm 60. Okay, but legally speaking, without a parent saying you can talk to my kid directly, I am not legally permitted. So if you're this age, don't call. Okay, because unless you are 18 years or older, I'm not talking to you without a guardian's go ahead. Okay, so you have to look at that. But if they're asking you what you're driving, what do you do for a living, they start and they'll do it really neat and really subtly. It'll start off on just a conversation. Okay, where they're asking little bits and pieces. They're likely to give you bits and pieces of their own life as a way of getting that information. I'm sharing a little bit with you, so you're going to share a little bit with me. Okay, now the reality of it is, if they're doing that, I strongly suggest you think carefully before proceeding. Okay, now I've got a very direct approach. It's just that simple. Okay, I remember, I used to get handed the problem children. I had one young lass that turned around and she started in, I'd already been told she was a problem child. When she phoned in, she started in on, all the things that were wrong with her life and how everybody else was to blame. So I let her rant for about 3 minutes. And I spent the next 10 minutes literally tearing a strip off her and told her point blank, look, what brought you to the point you're at right now, I can't do a thing about. It may have been the worst 40 years of your life. It may have been the worst 40 years in existence. But the reality is that's not going to change. So we're either going to focus on what you can do from here forward, or I'm going to hang up the phone. Okay. So when I got to the end of the time I had, what have we got here? Dog goes, not really. I'm an idiot and either too crazy or too sweet. Yeah, yeah. Raven, bad news. I don't use birth times, and here's why. Raven's just saying when talking to an astrologer, the birth time is important in order to determine the rising sign. Because it changes every 2 hours. It does. But here's why I don't bother with the rising sign myself, or with the birth time. Every other one of the ruling planets travel thousands and literally hundreds of thousands of miles. Okay, the furthest offline you can be, okay, as far as the time goes, the furthest off you can be is 8,000 miles. The other issue here is this. In Western astrology, all of the planets, assuming you calculate them traveling at the same time with the equals house system, this is great. All planets go counterclockwise. Wait a minute, no. All planets go clockwise, but the cusps go counterclockwise. I've actually got this detailed in the second newsletter, in the August newsletter coming out. Okay. That being, Angel's gone. Angel is okay. Well, thanks so much for dropping in, Angel. Really do appreciate it. Okay, so yes, it changes every 2 hours, but whereas the planets take 30 degrees to go through a house, because the cusp is moving the other direction, it's only going to take 15 degrees to travel to change signs. Okay, now that's a great big complication on calculations, which I'm not going to get into a great deal with right now, but I'm quite happy to lay it out for you. We're just not going to go through that. Oh, that I can't see. Dog, here it is. When you're looking at astrology, do I have? Okay. See, I actually keep props around. I actually built this with only four tools. Okay. If you take a look at it, okay, now where is Aries? I'm trying to look at this backwards. There we go. Okay. If you look at it, Aries is your first house. Now, all of your planets are going this way, are going counterclockwise. Okay. But the cusps, the junction between the houses, goes this direction. Okay. So, that's the first issue you have. The second issue you have, like I notice here, Dog, you've said here it takes 30 minutes. 360 divided by 12, okay, works out to, when you're looking at the 360, wasn't going to go down this route right now. Okay, when you're looking at it, you've got an actual scissor effect happening between the planets and the cusp. So although it will take 30 degrees, okay, to go from here to here, okay, to go from one sign to the next, that cusp is going from one house to the next. The sign itself is going the other direction. Yeah. Where are we here? I do not like doing math sometimes. Yes, you're absolutely correct, Raven. Planets are going clockwise, the cusps are going counterclockwise. But the fact of the matter is you end up with a scissor effect. Okay, now that'd be the first problem. The other, and that, like I said, we're looking at a crossover between psychic work and science. And yes, I will wholeheartedly stand behind. Okay, if you're looking at Aquarius, dog, there's your Aquarius sign right there. Right there. Okay. Now, of course, if you're looking at it, I'm looking at it that way. That's why it looks weird. I'm looking at it in this screen. That's why I'm getting confused. Because what you're seeing is over in that screen. I should be looking at it. But, should do that if I'm going to actually pay attention and hold it upright. But, oh, I definitely do the ascendant sign there, Raven. Absolutely. The way I look at that is I start at 6 a.m. Okay. I start at 6 a.m. to figure out where the ascendant is. And then it's a mathematical calculation. Okay. Now, like I said, my apologies for what the video is showing, because I've got the screen in front of me that shows a mirror image of what I'm doing. Okay. That screen is where you guys are all sitting. Yeah, see, if Aquarius is sitting in the 12th house, let's see here. I'm trying to turn it around in my own head. Now, I gotta wait for the screen here to catch up because it's really screwing me up trying to look backwards. And I don't flip things around well in my head. I can write backwards, I just don't translate when I'm trying to look at it. But if Aquarius is in the 12th house, you're going to understand people. There's no question there. Okay. You're going to understand them and you're going to have a curiosity streak that's absolutely insane. You know, it's sad. If I'd have actually started out by paying attention to that screen, I wouldn't have confused myself so badly. But my apologies for that. Can't do anything about it at this point. But when you're looking at a psychic, now, you know, I learned astrology a long time ago. And I will tell you this, it doesn't matter what you call the planet. And the other little kicker to that is if you're talking to a psychic that says they know everything, they know exactly what's going on, you might want to ask them if they've got a shovel or if they think a backhoe is more appropriate. Yes, the ascendant or rising sign is the same thing. Okay, yes. And you are correct, Raven. Absolutely. As I've mentioned to other people, I agree with the interpretations people have had for the different signs, for the different alignments. Absolutely. Dog, I pick a topic to start on. And this is one of those things that, you know, because we're dealing with Friday night, it still fits into a perfect setup. Okay, because we are still, like I said, on Fridays, we're going to deal with the paranormal tools. Astrology happens to be one of them. I do personally consider astrology a science because if you're using the same signs, okay, if you're using the same system, you'll come up with the same answer. Same as mathematics. If you're using the same mathematical arrangements, you'll come up with the same algebraic answers. Okay, a chemist using the same diagnostic techniques will come up with the same outcomes. This makes it a science in my eyes. Many people say it's a pseudoscience. And I'm like, yeah, not really. Todd goes, I left math when they added letters to it. I was actually really good at compound algebra. Now I just look at it like I don't remember at all what I remember the term, the quadratic formula. I have no idea what it actually was ever for. But like you, I still stick to basic math. Okay, it just didn't work all that well. Actually, in all fairness, it worked really well for me. They'd give me a question, I'd write the answer down and carry on. It was the issue of trying to explain how I got there that caused problems. Now, Raven, this will make sense to you. I'm actually a Taurian by my first birthday, with a grand cross in fixed signs. Okay, which needless to say means I got a stubborn streak that pretty much defies logic. Yeah, Dog goes, I do blaze trails, often, then get bored and leave it. Not my proudest trait. I end up blazing trails usually because I get lost and can't figure out where it was. So I wander around in circles for a while going, help. I don't have a problem asking people to tell me where to go. And usually they volunteer anyway. Now I will tell you that where it comes to psychics, whether we are dealing with, they say there are 3 signs that are really strong in the psychic world. I'll tell you, every single one of you has the ability to hone those signs, to hone those psychic abilities way beyond the standardly accepted normal. One of the things you look for with a psychic, and here's one of the, especially psychic healers, and these people, the ones that I will tell you flat out, are not in the right field. They may be a healer, okay, but the moment you tell somebody you're an energy healer, if you have to make physical contact with somebody, they're not working with energy, they're working with pressure. Because I never lay a hand on it. I never put a hand physically on somebody when I'm working on healing them, especially if they're a stranger. One of the things that bothers me is people go, "Oh, I've got to put my hand on your chakra to balance it out." Something you've got to understand: the 2 most common places to get jammed are your solar plexus and your groin. Okay, these are the 2, never mind the clinical name for them. These are the 2 most common places where energy gets jammed up. Third most common is actually the throat. Now, here's the thing. 75% of the clients that I've dealt with over the last 37 years, okay, 75% of them were female. Now, can you picture what kind of a problem I would have doing healing work on people if I had to have physical contact in those 2 locations? Okay. This is where it gets to be a little bit of a problem. Raven's going, Shadow and I just did a show on for the rabbit hole about the lesser known psychic gifts. Tell you, the one that's really understated is empathy. One of the most powerful and frankly potentially deadly abilities available. But in answer to that neat little question, why am I quite open to speaking about the whole 9 yards? Well, let's see. I was born with your standard 5 senses. Sight, taste, touch, hearing, and smell. But I was also born with clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, what one person called clairosmic, and I have no idea what distant touch is. Okay, I don't know what the term is people use for that. Oh, where are we here? Doug, this is the link, and thank you so much for reminding me of that. Oh, Raven already did. Perfect. That saves me that. And this is why I say I don't have a problem. As a matter of fact, I encourage the moderators in this room to put up links when they're required. Everybody else, the answer is no. It's got to go through a moderator or through me. Take your pick. Okay. But I've got those senses. I also work with psychometry, as in reading the emanations off of objects. Psychokinetics, I understand it and I do suffer from it on occasion. That's mind over matter, as in moving things before you actually put a hand to them. Psychocellular and cellular kinesis, also known as accelerated healing. Okay. Do I astral travel and remote view? The answer is yes to both of those. This is why I say there is no way that I can functionally relate to the way that the standard world works. Okay. For me, this is just a wide array of what I work with. Okay. But will I tell you I'm 100% accurate? No, I'll tell you flat out I'm not. I have made mistakes. Have I predicted things coming in? Absolutely. I've helped people close lawsuits. I've helped find missing bodies. You name it, I've probably dealt with it. Okay. The one thing I never suffered from was the inability to put my foot in my mouth. Okay, I've always managed to be able to do that. But when you're dealing with a psychic, the moment they tell you that theirs is the only way to do something, walk away. Okay, mine is just one way of doing something. Okay, and the other thing you have to realize is these people that say, "Oh, send me $5,000 and I'll make your life, the love of your life, come back to you." The only thing sending them $5,000 is going to do is make them $5,000 richer and you $5,000 poorer. Okay, I had a woman out of Calgary phone me one day, and she was in a bit of a state, and I said, "What's in I asked her. I said, "Okay, before I go down any rabbit holes, you're calling for a reason, and I do encourage you, if you're contacting a reader, okay, I will give you an answer to that in 10 seconds here, Raven. Um, you know, I said, look, I could go down a rabbit hole, but what specifically are you calling about?" And she goes, "Well, I've been dealing with another psychic, and they said that if I send them a $5,000 pair of shoes, that they will be able that will help them focus in on the person and bring them back to me." And I looked at her and I went, "Please tell me you didn't send it." And she goes, "Well, I can't afford it. I've already sent more than $100,000 to them." I'm thinking, like, why? I literally asked her that, and she says, "Well, they said that they could do this." I said, "Great." I said, "Well, much as I wouldn't mind that kind of money, the only thing sending them a $5,000 pair of diamond boots is going to do is it's going to make their wardrobe look great." I said, "Do not send another nickel to them." And, if you're doing it with the idea of getting something from them, stop now. If you're just trying to make them happy, absolutely do what you will. It's your money. Okay. Now, Raven has asked, what is deja vu actually? I've had 2 cases this week that rocked me to the core and literally made me dizzy. Okay, deja vu is literally before seeing. Okay, in other words, you're looking into the future, seeing an event before it occurs, and then you catch up to it. Likely not too terribly far, but I have seen deja vu take place, 5 years ahead of time. But if it's rocking you that badly, my suspicion is that you're seeing it, and within a few days, you see the same thing all over again. Okay, and yes, when it happens, it can make you dizzy, it can send you for a loop, and it can certainly make you question your sanity. But deja vu literally means before seeing. Before it occurs, you get a handle on it. You get a forewarning. This is great where it comes to danger. Okay. It can be a bit of a pain in the neck. Oh, it always means something, Doug. Okay. What it is if you can recognize it, and that's where the kicker is. If you recognize the image as clairvoyance, deja vu is the backside of clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is clear sight. Okay. Deja vu is before seeing. In other words, you knew it. You didn't register it as clairvoyance, but you knew it was coming. Probably didn't have a lot of insight as to what to do about it or how to deal with it. But it is a way of keeping you out of trouble. There was an issue years and years ago at this point, okay, where I had seen a plane crash. Okay, military aircraft, the thing crashed tail first. Two people were thrown clear before the crash. Okay, now a buddy of mine was an archaeologist at the time, and I called him up. I told him about this whole thing, and 4 days later, because he did not believe in the psychic world, he believed in astrology or in archaeology. He believed in concrete proof on the ground. Okay, and he calls me up 4 days later. He says, Keith, you got to turn on the TV onto this channel. So I turned it on, and there was the exact rendition of the accident. Okay, thing was, as it turned out, it wasn't military; it was a passenger plane. And according to my buddy, he says planes don't crash tail first; they just don't. But this one had definitively crashed tail first. As it turned out, the two people that were thrown clear of the plane, where I said there were no survivors, one, 3 days earlier, it turned out, had got a call and had to go home early. So he wasn't on the plane. The other one got halfway up the steps onto the plane and said, I'm not going. Turn around and walk back down and back into the hangar. When the plane crashed, everybody on board was dead. Okay. Now, that issue that the guy went to, that the guy was going up the steps, turned around, went back down, that was because of clairvoyance registering. Okay. So, I mean, ultimately, it does give you warning. And this is what the purpose is. Yeah, quite often, dog, it's really difficult to explain what we're sensing. It's like there's something wrong. You think it's bad from your end. You should try it from my son's standpoint. I'll walk into the room and go, something's wrong. What's up? I may not be able to pin it down. Okay, but I will know something's wrong. And of course, I do have a rule myself. I will not deliberately walk into somebody's head and start looking for answers. Although I will absolutely, and I'll tell you this is wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway. Survival taught me that. I walk into a crowded room, and the first thing I look for is I'll do a surface scan on everybody in the room to pin down where the problem children are. Okay. Second step is I look for the exit points. Doors, windows, potentially weak points in walls. Okay. When I get a seat, I almost invariably put my back to the wall. And then I'll look for the bathroom pretty much as an afterthought. No, Raven, I honestly haven't. The one I saw actually took place on the East Coast. I called it a military plane. Turned out to be a passenger plane with an entire array of military personnel and paratroopers heading home. But no, I haven't seen any plane crashes recently. I have seen things coming up, which is what drew me out of the shadows in the first place. Yeah, and Dog goes, it wasn't wrong when I sensed that it's different. It's like I already know the outcome and I was going through the motions. I didn't end up as I'd like, but I feel like it's how I pitched it all along. Yeah, from the good start to the mediocre ending. Yeah, and that honestly, Dog, is quite often what we're looking at. Right now, I'm looking at a very simple situation. If we don't work together as a unit, okay, with everybody focusing on putting the positive in front, we are in serious trouble. Okay. Now, I will tell you, we're not worried about a world war. Because if this one goes sour, you're in the Stone Ages. Okay. Because technology, everything that's on a computer will go away. You just won't have it. And there aren't that many builders left that can actually function. Like, realistically, we've got all kinds of metal manufacturers, but how many people alive today actually know how to smelt metal in an open forge? Okay, as in ring of stone, whole pile of hot coal, and beat the stain in the daylights out of the stone to get the metal out of it. Not many of you. Okay, and I'm not suggesting we go back to that. I'm suggesting, no, I'm stating, never mind suggesting, I'm stating flat out. We start working together and we can actually turn the tide around. The fact of the matter is that this is something that as a species, we have to turn around and do something with. Because if we continue to work the way we are, we're heading for the Dark Ages. Okay, and that's just the sad reality of it. Yeah, that happens way more often than I care to count there, dog. I know the last place I moved into, I walked in, there was a lineup a mile long, that they had a waiting list a mile long. I showed up on the doorstep with money in my hand and went, I'm looking for the place. And the woman goes, she says, I've got this long list. You're like 15th on the line. But she says, I've got a lot of people that I've got to go through. I went, okay. And so I started filling out the paperwork. And she looks at me and she goes, because I told her what I was doing for a living at the time. And she goes, what do you think the odds are of you actually getting this place? I looked at her and I said, I'm filling out the paperwork. And she goes, what does that mean? I said, if I wasn't getting it, I wouldn't be filling out the paperwork. Right. And she looks at my dad and she goes, is he serious? And Dad goes, yeah. He goes, you already decided you're putting him in the room. Right. My dad, by the way, was a quiet psychic. He kept telling me, keep my abilities quiet. Of course, that defies the question as to why he and my mom were the ones to give me a deck of tarot cards for my 16th birthday. Talk about a life changer. But when you're looking at psychics, understand they are not going to necessarily hit everything on the money. Okay. They look at the world different than what you might be. Okay. And, there are times when things are, because they're incomplete, we get fractions. But the thing that most psychics forget is you don't have to, as a psychic, I don't have to know what is going, I don't have to understand your life. I have to simply accept the fact you have to understand it, which is why when I'm doing a reading for somebody, I will turn around. The one common question I ask people, does this make sense to you? And if they go yes, I'm like, good, we'll carry on. Okay, because I don't have to understand your life. Okay, I have enough trouble understanding mine. But you can spot, the reality is, the moment somebody starts telling you that you're wrong in what you're seeing, okay, that you are wrong, not that you're mistaken, but that you're wrong. Okay, I had a client years ago, and the first words out of his mouth was, do you mind? And this was way before the whole gay rights movement. He piped up, he goes, do you care if I'm gay? I looked at him, I went, no, definitely not. I said, look, and he repeated it, and we went back and forth for a bit, and I said, look, The only thing that you're telling me you're gay does is it tells me if I see a woman coming into your life, the odds are I'm seeing a male. Okay, that's all it does. And he goes, so you don't think I'm evil? I says, how, pray tell, could who you're crawling to bed with, if it's voluntary on their part, how can that possibly be evil? Right? And so we went back and forth for a bit. The first 5 minutes was back and forth over this issue. I finally stopped. I said, wait a minute. He said, let me ask you, why are you so confused that I don't care that you're gay? Well, you really don't. I says, no. I says, do you care that I'm heterosexual? He said, what difference does it make to me? I said, bonus points. I said, I don't care. But why are you so caught up on it? Okay. Oh, if they want to dress like that, let them. Dog just goes, unless they dress up with horns and a tail. You'll worry about when they really have horns and a tail, but that's another issue. But I asked the guy, I said, look, what, pray tell, why are you so agitated about it? He says, well, I just spent 15 minutes on a phone with a psychic telling me that I was going to burn in hell because of that. I looked at him and I said, I gotta ask, why would you stay on the phone for 15 minutes at $3 a minute to listen to somebody tell you you're going to burn in hell because of who you crawl into bed with? He goes, well, he said, I didn't know I could hang up. I said, it's really funny with the phone. You just take the thing, put it down, problem solved. You don't have to listen to people telling you that you're evil. Okay. I've dealt with people that are gay, that are, that have been raped, that have been in gangs. As a matter of fact, I dealt with a chap that was trying to get out of the Crips. Okay, as in a high-ranking member of the Crips, as in the Bloods and the Crips in the States. Raven goes, the future is a moving target. The psychic can tell you what the energy, if unchanged, will lead to. Bingo. Absolutely on the money, Raven. All we're doing is going, this is the most likely outcome if you don't change the path you're on. And then we turn around and go, here's some options of ways you can change it. It's up to you to change it. All we can do is turn the lights on. If you're walking down a shadowed hallway and there's a chair in the middle of the hallway, all we do is turn the light on and say, if you don't change direction, you're tripping over that. And rest assured, I know this from practical experience. Tripping over a chair in the middle of the hallway is painful. Oh, dog, absolutely nothing is preordained. Nothing is predetermined. And any psychic that tells you this is the way it's going to happen, the moment they say that, walk away. Okay, here's the easiest way I can explain time. This is where you start. This is your past. You'll know there's no you'll notice there's no variations. Okay, your present is right here in the middle of your hand. Okay, now I only show 5 fingers. Okay, there are, in fact, an incredible multitude of fingers. Okay, but once you make the choice to go up onto this joint becomes the elbow, and you're heading down this path. You cannot get to these other fingers at all. You've written that off. Okay, so no, the future is not written. Okay, it's not written at all. Now, dog is going, so why deja vu if it's not supposed to happen? Deja vu doesn't tell you what's supposed to happen. There is no supposed to. Deja vu tells you, if you stay on the path you're on, this is what you're walking into. Okay, that's all it tells you. It gives you a forewarning, that's what you're up against. Okay, if you see that wall in front of you and you choose to change direction, you don't run into it. Okay, it's very much like driving. If you keep an eye on the side roads, okay, You can spot if a car is going to run a red light or run a stop sign. You can spot it. Deja vu is spotting the car on the side of the road, coming down the road towards the intersection, and knowing that it's going through that stoplight. Now, you've got the option. You can either carry on and subsequently get broadsided, or you've got the option of stopping, or, of course, the other option is gunning it and trying to get through. Not a good option. Okay, deja vu is a warning based on the path you're currently on. That's all it does. It says, there's the path you're on. That's what you're heading into. And dog goes, but if you don't change and the good deja vu went to crap, not your own fault. Here's the kicker to it. Okay, if you deja vu very seldom, I mean, deja vu can be positive, certainly. Okay, but you got to remember, reality itself. Remember, I mentioned a long time ago, and quite often since, a long time ago, I mentioned this issue of mankind has the ability to manipulate what humans call 0-point energy. Okay. Now, I was talking to an insurance agent one day, and he goes, look, he says, if you're in a vehicular accident, let's say you got rear-ended. Okay. If you get rear-ended, legally, you're to blame. Or legally, the guy hitting you from behind is to blame. But he said, realistically, if you had been more aware of what was coming up behind you, you could have accelerated, shifted your direction a little, and possibly avoided the impact. So it's partially yours anyway. Okay, this does not absolve other people from their actions. Okay, and Lord knows how I've managed to avoid certain things. That's not a bad assessment there, Raven, in all fairness. Raven's just saying that she would say that you probably didn't notice a deja vu. Sometimes they're extremely subtle. And I do appreciate the clarification there, Doug. The reality of it is some things are already in motion so fast that you're not going to be able to change them. It's very much along the same lines. I mean, if you think in the way of a bullet, okay, once it leaves the chamber, it's moving awful quick, and getting out of the way may be a problem. Okay, this is why I say I'm quite willing to admit that bad things happen. Okay, more often than not, we can alter the way things are going if we pay attention to it and do the work necessary. In my case, okay, I took a look at where my life was. Now, the reality is the path I was on, when I hit 246 pounds, I had reached a point where if I didn't change that, I was going to die. Now, I could have done like everybody else and blamed society. Oh, they got all this fast food that they're telling you to buy, and it's really good and it's really quick. I could have done like everybody else and gone, I'm not changed. It's not my fault they're putting the food in front of my face. Yeah, not a problem, Doc. Dog, the reality is I go through the same thing periodically. Remember, I mentioned about a year ago. Well, you may remember. I don't know. I was very seriously looking at shutting this whole stream down because I didn't see where it was going. About 2 months ago, I got shown exactly where it's going. Okay. And this stream is going to not only go global. Okay. This stream is going to go global. The publishing company I'm in the middle of building is going to become an empire. This isn't a question for me. Will it happen? This is a question of when. And that depends entirely on how much effort I put in and how much assistance I get where I require it. And what do we got going on here? Go back to live. Yeah. Yeah, that's what you were mentioning. I also was talking to somebody the other day. Apparently, I'm also already in Singapore. But, the way I look at it is this. I take a look at the whole situation. We have billions of people that sit and listen to people going, the world's going to end. You're going to go to hell because you're not doing exactly what this piece of paper says. And I'll tell you, that's been completely confused. Okay, but I'm not going into that one right now. I will tell you, when you're dealing with psychics, when you're dealing with spiritual guides, ask yourself this: whatever the guide, whether it's a psychic, a religious leader, as in a priest or a pastor, whether it's the leader of a coven, if they're telling you do this, ask yourself, or better yet, ask them, are they doing the same thing? Okay, now I'm just going to pick on religion for half a minute, and I mean all of religion, not just one denomination. Okay, most of your religions will tell you we're here to help the poor, we're here to deal with the sick. So why, therefore, are they blocking are they not putting the homeless up in the churches, when the churches aren't in absolute use? Okay, in my case, I tell people, help the people you can. Well, it's normal for me in a grocery store. If I'm in line, I've got a little bit of extra money. I will buy the person behind me. I will pay for their groceries. When I tell you, I encourage you to do this if it's not hurting you. I absolutely am doing that myself. When I talk about treating everybody equally, okay, that's the way I am. Will I come right out and tell you what to do with yourself if you tick me off? Absolutely. And will I apologize for it? No. When I was a kid, my parents used to tell me, you've got to apologize for that. And I kid you not, I'd look at the person, I'd go, please accept my most insincere apology to date. Right. Now, most of the people just took it in stride and away they went, and they were happy. But if you listen to what I just said, was that actually an apology? I thought I was blunt. I remember one young lass, they called their brother stupid. The mother looks at them and goes, you apologize to your brother. Now, for obvious reasons, the lass did not think she should have to apologize. So she turns around, looks at her brother while she's right in front of her mom, and she goes, I'm sorry you're so stupid. This apparently was the wrong answer. Okay, and apparently the apology wasn't quite what they were expecting. But am I going to apologize for my way of looking at things? Not at all. Okay, I made a mistake 2 years ago, maybe 3 now, where somebody asked why people should believe me. And, my immediate response was, what makes you think I care? This is the way I am. Yeah, I had a mouth the size of, that was as deep as the Grand Canyon. And I could put both feet in it really quick. The one thing that was always enforced, and I always fell in line with, was respect the people you're dealing with, providing they respect you. This funny thing about honor thy father and thy mother, that's great. If mother and father aren't beating the physical stuffing out of you. Now, a true psychic will live their truth. Okay, they don't just talk about you should be doing this. Do this to make it happen. Okay, I have guided people to put a relationship back together after fidelity was breached. I have guided literally hundreds of people, probably thousands, given the fact that out of that 100,000 clients, probably close to 70,000 of them were relationship based. Okay, Yet I did tell my other half, my current other half, she ever cheats on me, we're done. There will be no reconciliation. Okay. For me, it's a simple issue of ask me a question, I'll give you an answer. It may not be the one you desire, but I'm certainly not going to sugarcoat it for you just to make you feel better, unless you ask me to. Okay. Now, I was listening to one chap, you know, dog goes, I get told I'm too nice. But if you're not threatening me or my family, why would I be a dip? That's not the word he used, by the way. To look like a man. What a load. Just don't be that way. I don't understand why it's that hard either. But I see it all the time. And actually, I do understand why it's that hard. Society has taken, and they take it right from childhood, right through the school system, all the way through all of your so-called spiritual guidance in mainstream spirituality. Okay. Do exactly what you're told or you're going to get punished. I like the other method. Do exactly what you're asked to do where it comes to raising a child or dealing with a coworker, and you'll get rewarded. Not you'll get punished for not doing, but if you do it the right way, it'll work out better. Minimize the negative, maximize the positive. It's a simple philosophy. Okay. Oh, heavens, dog. Never apologize for that. The reality is I have trouble where it comes to the Australian accent, splitting between whether it's an Australian accent, an English accent, or a New Zealand accent. Okay. But do I care one way or the other what your accent is? No. Nice part about accents is I look at this and I'm reading what's typed. Typing doesn't have a lot of accents to it. Unless you start putting exclamation marks and what have you in it. But the thing you got to remember about the Aussie people, their heritage, like the entire continent, the heritage is of a bunch of, quite literally, according to English society, okay, is quite literally everybody's heritage is they're all crooks, they're all criminals, they're all murderers. That's the background. Thing is, the Aussies, these people all got dumped off on a continent that was violent. You look at the spiders, those dang things you can saddle. Okay. And, we've got goats. They got kangaroos. A goat may run into your knee. The kangaroo will kick the living stuffing out of you. This is a hardy group of people. It really is. But the thing is, Aussies will come out and say, this is the heritage we've got. Many other cultures go, oh, we're perfect. We're great people. No, you're not. You're still human. I'm not a great person. Okay, I do my best to put my best foot forward. But do I bite my tongue? Am I politically correct? Absolutely not. I remember the first group of psychics I met. I was real subtle about it because I didn't know the first thing about psychics. I had no idea what it was. It was normal for me to walk into a room, answer half a dozen questions people were thinking about asking, and then carry on with my day. Dog goes, I'm pretty sure my great grandmother came on the boat to Australia because they had rum on it. Well, whatever gets you on the boat. That wouldn't be an entire shock. And the fact of the matter is, once the groundwork was laid, people moved to Australia because of the challenge. Very hardy people. Up here, everybody calls this the Great White North. It ain't got that much snow. As a matter of fact, New York got more snow this year than we did, which I'm not complaining about. They can have it. Todd goes, with 8 kids, I need some rum too. Here's the funny thing. My parents, they actually gave birth to 5 boys They turned around and adopted a daughter. We had 2 foster sisters, and mom and dad were block parents. So it was normal for us to have 15, 20 kids in the back room, in the backyard when we got home. Plus, of course, mom was a Sunday school teacher, and dad was the superintendent of Sunday schools for the Comox Valley. Now, that said, in the 60 years under the same roof, I do not recall them having one fight. In all fairness, I don't actually recall them having an argument. 60 years under one roof. And they only knew each other 5 months before they got married. Okay. So, does this sort of thing happen? Yes. When you're dealing with a psychic, do understand something very important. The moment a psychic tells you he's the best there is, really start to debate whether you're going to sit there and listen to him. Okay, or her for that matter. And in case you hadn't noticed, males and females are equally capable of psychic interpretation. Okay, and before anybody goes down that real silly, ridiculous road, no, you don't have to be gay to be psychic. Sorry, never looked at a guy in that fashion in the slightest. Okay, just never was a thought process. Okay, do I have anything against people that are that way inclined? Not in the least. As I told one chap, I can even tolerate a polite pass once. And I'll be polite and go, no, not going that direction. The second time, I'm likely to not be half as polite. Matter of fact, what's likely to come out of my mouth is a whole lot less than polite. But in order to be a proper psychic, number one, if you're dealing with a psychic that exudes any prejudice, i.e., I don't like these people because they're from this country or they're this color, that person you do not want to listen to. Because I will tell you, if they're living their life with that kind of overshadow, you're going to get questionable guidance at best. Okay, but the fact of the matter is it falls into your hand to decide whether or not you're going to act on and or believe what you're told. I cannot make people believe anything, I don't think. Doc, and Dog goes, I've been hit on from a gay bloke. It's weird. Ever since I've been more gentle with the ladies. With the ladies at first. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they do think in a more, shall we say, no, and I don't take that as disrespect, and anybody that does, quite frankly, missed the boat. My dad always had a saying. Number one, he always said, it's better to walk away from a fight than to stand and go toe-to-toe. Now, my father was a fighter, and he had one bad monthly habit. He would, without fail, beat the living stuffing out of his CO. Or, for that matter, anybody else. My father, when he was a young airman, he would literally, if somebody swore in front of a woman, never mind if it was his girlfriend, just any woman, he would beat the living stuffing out of them. And all my life, he always told me the same thing. Do not get into a fight. If you can avoid it, do so. The reality of it is this. Everyone has their strengths. Everyone has their weaknesses. And I will tell you, the people that turn around and go, I've listened to psychics do this. They'll sit there and they'll be talking to a female, and they'll go, "Oh, you should get out of the construction industry because it's not right for you." Yeah, well, they're more creative about it. Dog just goes in Australia. Some of our women swear worse than the blokes. Yeah, well, that was the funny thing, Adam. When my dad beat the heck out of his CO, it was the CO who kept getting transferred out. 12 years on one airbase. And Dad put, 12 years at 12 months. he put 144 COs into, and some of them multiple times. He put approximately 144 COs into the infirmary for swearing in front of a woman. My dad never came up on any sort of disciplinary action that I'm aware of. Never did time in jail, never got transferred. How he did it, the best I can tell you, is he was a full empath. Okay. So I mean, all in all, Christine goes, what do we got here? Oh, Christine, in all fairness, I do. I do my best not to, but if you get me mad, my control over what comes out of my mouth is a whole lot less than dignified. Do I promote the idea? Not at all, and I do my level best. In case you hadn't noticed, even reading it out loud, I don't tend to do. Okay, but do I swear if I get mad? Absolutely. Fortunately, some of what comes out of my mouth isn't English, and therefore nobody on the planet understands what I just said. But on the flip side of that, I don't take offense to anybody swearing during conversation unless they're swearing directly at me. Oh, no. No. Dad really wouldn't. Football just going, would your dad warn them in advance? No, but word got around pretty quick. Because when they brought somebody in, they were already warned that he had a bit of a problem. Okay. And it didn't take long in the mess hall for him. Like, I watched Dad, decades back when I was just a wee lad. I was at the military base, and an airman touched me in a way that he shouldn't have, just as Dad was coming through the door. Just as he was coming into the room. Well, Dad picked the airman up and took him out the front door of the mess hall. The big problem there was no front door. Now understand, my father was only 5'7", with a 52-inch chest, 18-inch forearms, and a Golden Glove boxer. Not to mention he was also trained by a Shinto master, where it came to using a cane. So when Dad picked this guy up, right, he took him out the front door. Oh, Dad, I don't think I ever heard Dad swear. And, sorry, how did he act to women swearing? At that point, the reality of it was that women in that age didn't swear a whole lot in the Comox Valley where I grew up. At least not that I ever heard. I mean, the worst word that I'd ever heard until I hit high school was hell. Okay. But no, Dad was always polite to everybody. Granted, he was a little off center on occasion, but no, he lived by the same rule that he well, we'll use the term preach. He was the superintendent of Sunday schools, but he lived the same way he talked. Okay, and in my case, I'm quite proud in a lot of ways to say I do the same thing. I say this is the way to treat people. That's the way I treat them. Don't care who you are. Okay. Also, don't care how much money you've got. So I mean, from that standpoint, when you're looking at a true psychic, they will follow the path. They will follow the path of a decent person. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. There's a lot of polite ways to swear at people or to insult people. Yeah, I agree with you there, dog. Yeah, Christine goes, yeah, she'd say, oh, murder. And then she'd gasp at herself. And dog goes, just don't be a dickhead. Easiest rule ever. Simple rule of thumb. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. This is the way I live my life. If I desire people to treat me decent, that's the way I'm going to treat them. Okay, this is why I do my best to be honest with you guys. I think in Dad's case, very much the case. Dad would always work within the law, right? Aside from this whole civil thing about you don't hit your commanding officer, Dad just looked at it and went, you don't hit them 4 times before they hit the floor. At least that seemed to be the way it was. Of course, being a Golden Gloves boxer, he could actually hit them 3 times before they hit the floor. Yeah, Christine goes, when I worked in customer service with a headset, people were so mean to us. But I mute myself and curse when the person hung up. Cuss when the person hung up. See, I was told I was supposed to do that. I never got the idea of muting myself. You know, I remember being on the phone one day and somebody was being an absolute dipstick. And what I told him and what I did, I'm sitting there on the phone, my boss is listening. Excuse me, but are you a complete idiot or are there parts of you missing? You know, this is the way I talk to people because, well, frankly, that's what the guy was being. You know, the fact of the matter is, yeah, it depends entirely on what happened to your husband, but I'll tell you, hopefully football, I mean, my sympathies for you. I will tell you, there is not a person's opinion on the planet that is worth having that kind of a reaction to, but I do understand where it comes from. Okay. Yeah, I really do. This does not make you a weak person. It does not make you a lesser person. Oh. Well, that's unfortunate in a lot of ways. You know, but what might be, it may be unfortunate. I don't know. I know there are some people that are really lucky to not be married, that the other person is really lucky. My father used to look at people when they were constantly fighting with each other, and his comment was real simple. Well, at least only one family is miserable. You know, I mean, the reality of it is, you know, when you take a look at relationships, first and foremost, and way too many people are taught this, you know, way too many people are taught, you have to have a partner to be complete. No, you don't. Okay. This is that funny little issue about you've got to find a way to be content with you before you're going to find a way, in all likelihood, to be fully content with another. See, I was lucky. I didn't go with the nearly turned into an alcoholic. I actually went the whole route. Yeah, I used to kill at 26 a night. I wouldn't even blink. And I quit counting lines, as in lines of cocaine, at 6 lines a night. But I did it to get a 100% total stranger out of drugs and alcohol. It worked. You know, I mean, I spent 24 years in the hospitality industry, and I never did buy cotton to the idea of, oh, the customer is always right. You know, I got told that one day by a problem child. He says, he looks at me and goes, the customer is always right. I says, you know, my boss has been trying to tell me that for years. I just haven't paid any attention to it. Football, you guys don't drink beer. You know, I had a friend that we used, the answer to your question there, football, your beer is 2.5% alcohol. Okay. Great beer. Don't get me wrong. The flavor's not bad. The beer we drink up here, the weak stuff, unless we bring up things like Rainier up here, the weak Canadian beer is 5%. The stuff that I used to drink was 7%. You know, I mean, I used to drink with a pair of guys. Twin flame might be another problem, but twin flames I do deal with. But you are right. You've got to be content here at least, and you may not even know you're content. The last that I'm connected with, okay, I've come a long way in my own outlook on myself since I met her. But looking back on it, You know, looking back on it, I've been this way my entire life. As a matter of fact, it just dawned on me the biggest cause of my stress is trying to figure out a way to fit into this backwoods mud ball. And it finally dawned on me in all of my lifetimes, and I mean even back before Earth was built, I've never struggled to fit in. I just looked at it and went, doesn't work, not doing it. Okay, but again, watch the psychic you're dealing with. Ask yourself one thing. Are they living their life under the same guidelines that they're telling you should be living yours? By the way, that also applies to your religious leaders, as in whoever your pastor or your priest is in your church. Are they living the life that they're telling you should live? Okay. If they're not, it may be time to reassess whether you're following the right people. Are you seeing a spiritual guide that is telling you to retaliate and become violent towards somebody because they were violent towards you? If you're listening to somebody like that, it may be time to reassess. Now, will I tell you I've never had those thoughts? Absolutely not. Tell you what, you read the Yldrbacian Chronicles, you watch Jeremiah. That's how I deal with most of my problems, except in this lifetime, in this world, I am not physically violent. Period. You literally have to push me an awful long way. And I've only hit a few people out of anger. Okay, 3 in high school that weren't my family, that weren't bloodline, only hit each of them once. All 3 of them ended up in the hospital. Okay, no, none of them ended up dead. But the reality is, violence is, where do we go? Oh, Doug, the only place you can buy the books at this point, because I got shafted royally. This is the email address to get a hold of me. Copy that. The books themselves, this is the only place you can do. Now, this email address is how to get a hold of me directly. It's also the email address used to pay through PayPal. In Canada, I also take direct deposit. Now, this part here is a website that has the details of 7 out of 8 of the books. Okay. The 8th one, I haven't talked to them yet to get it added. So I got to do that. But that website will give you a description. Now, that said, if you email me, I've got a document already written where I can send you a single sheet. Well, actually, it's 2 sheets that tell you exactly what the 8 books are. The 8 that I've got written. Christine's just going, oh, that's Raven. Yeah. Christine goes, Raven goes, after having done customer service and having been a waitress and a bartender, I appreciate them and super sweet to them too. Most of the time, so am I. I'm very seldom upset with people. Okay. I don't know how to overtip. Like, realistically, football, you're going, me too, I always overtip. What, pray tell, do you consider overtipping? I'm just curious. Hey, Derek, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The reality of it is, from my standpoint, when I look at overtipping, I'm like, well, let's see, I average somewhere close to a 33 to at least 25%, usually closer to 33. The only time I won't tip, like I just flat out won't, if I get poor service, or if I go into a restaurant and they go, oh, what? I don't consider that over tipping, football. I really don't. If the waitress or the waiter are good, I absolutely don't have a problem with that at all. Myself. With that in mind, when we take a look at it, I go, if I walk into a restaurant and I go, and they hand me the bill and it says added 15% tip or whatever, okay, that will be the last time I set foot in that restaurant, no matter how nice the people are. The reality of it is this. Psychics are spiritual guides. If they're not following their own guidelines, you may choose to look at a different guide. Just a thought. That's just the reality behind it. And of course, I look at it again, as far as the newsletter goes, it's growing. It is now, it'll be somewhere between 8 and 10 pages by the time I finish with it tonight. It was 6 when I first started, but it is expanding. And the only way to get that, again, is by direct request, either through email, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world, email or physical, I'll send it anyway, and it's going to remain free of charge. Just because, I run it through my advertising anyway. And yes, I do cover things like some of the information on psychics, on how to know whether you're on the right track with a guide. These are topics I will be dealing with. Okay. Just because, well, it's got to be done, in my opinion. Now, with this in mind, guys, unfortunately, we are hitting the 2-hour mark here. Well, we've actually passed it, which doesn't bother me in the least. But with that in mind, tomorrow is, what is tomorrow? Tomorrow's Sunday. No, tomorrow's Saturday. So tomorrow we are going to be looking at, you'll love this one maybe, but we're going to be dealing with the nature of ghosts. What drives ghosts? What are they? How do they function? And what are they up to? And rest assured, that's a bit of a twisted setup. We'll be dealing with that tomorrow. Okay. But until then, and again, just a quick passing note. If you like the stream and you haven't already, give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of it. Okay. Together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Okay, so until I meet with you again, do take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.